So Django already has a test suite and test files built in the project or in the app. I think specifically the app that allows us to write test cases for unit tests for, which is really nice. So I'm just gonna get, where am I at? Just open this up into a new VS Code window. So this is from Tuesday. We had the My Site polls. Let's go ahead and get this up and running. So I've got this existing project. How do I get this up and running? What are the steps I need to take? Anybody?
Activate your virtual environment.
All right. Yep. So I'm currently in my virtual environment, so I can source V bin activate because they've already created that virtual environment. And there we go. I'm in my virtual environment. I can see. I'm sorry.
Oh, never mind.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say LS to try to get down a level.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
go to the level where your manage.py is. I think you're there already.
Yep. So I'm already right there. So pip list, I can see what I already have installed. I've got Django Extensions. Again, Django Extensions is a package that just has a bunch of built-in methods that interact with Django to make our lives easier. There's a bunch of stuff that it can do, but typically we usually use the shell plus if we want to interact directly with Python code in the terminal. But there's other stuff it can do as well. But off the top of my head, I don't really know of any other things that I've used it for recently. We also have
quick question about pip.
Yep.
I think last week when Chad was doing it, he did pip freeze and it seemed to do the same thing. It showed all the pip packages installed. Is there a major difference between just and freeze?
Pip freeze, I believe, builds that requirements.txt file, right?
Yeah.
So if I do pip freeze requirements.txt.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, cool.
So yeah, if you ever want to like push this code up and have somebody else, or if you're working on another machine and you want somebody else to work on this application, you don't want to push up your virtual environment because that's just like pushing up node modules. I know we're going way back when we're working with JavaScript and Node, but this holds all the packages and everything in here. So you never want to push up your virtual environment directory on it up to GitHub because it takes up so much space. So you'll want to generally ignore that or push everything up except that. But if you want somebody to pull it, clone it, and or fork it, clone it down, and install all the packages that this project relies on, you create that requirements.txt file. That's running that pip freeze requirements.txt. Then it automatically pushes or adds all of the packages that are currently located in this virtual environment into here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So I'm just gonna do Python manage.py run server just to see this thing up and running. All right. So if I go to localhost 8000, I'm gonna get an error, page not found, because it doesn't have a route that goes to this place anymore. But we do have the admin, which we haven't talked about yet. And we also have that polls right here. So we have that, what's the funniest movie? And it still has all of our votes stored in the database because we're using a Postgres database down here in our databases in our settings.py file. Any questions about this challenge or this aspect?
Yeah, actually I do. And I meant to ask it on Tuesday, but I couldn't really find a place to ask it. If you go into the views or actually any of it, we have views is probably the easiest place to look. Like in any of our methods there, like results detail, we have question ID. So that's a parameter that's getting plugged in there. And I'm trying to trace it back to where that is first created. Where is that being accessed, and where is that question ID parameter, variable, or whatever being created?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, good question. So, so let's go back to our index.html. So here we are on our index. Let's just polls. So let's follow the URLs. If we go to polls / whatever, it looks into our polls.urls in our Django app. And now we're at polls / nothing. It views our index method. So here is our index method, which renders this poll / index template. So I'm going to go up here, open that up. And this lists all the questions. So when I click on that link, it takes me to polls /1. So I can come over here and just refresh that. And if I hover over that, in the lower left-hand corner of the page down here, you can see where that route leads to. Polls, so localhost 8000 polls /1/. So that comes from here, this href and this detail named route. So we have a named route. So it looks for a URL with a detail named route. So if I come over here, it finds a detail named route, and it's going to point us to this URL. And this question ID is, think of this as a variable almost. So if we look at here, this question ID that's going to be inserted into this URL comes from right here, which has a value of the question.id. So that's where the question ID gets inserted into here, into the path. So that's where it's /1, because this question ID has a value of 1. So /1. And then this variable, think of it as a variable, gets inserted into this detail view method as question_ID.
Okay, so you're actually, it seems like you're almost declaring a variable within that link tag.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're declaring a variable, but yeah, you are. You're essentially linking this question ID to this value.
Yeah, because you have question ID equals question ID. It almost seems like it's assigning it to a variable right there.
Yeah. And if your URL only has one value, that like one dynamic value, you don't necessarily need to have this question ID equals question ID. I can get rid of that, and this dynamically knows that this value should be passed in to this part of the URL. But I try to get in the habit of actually declaring what part of the URL this question ID goes to, because when we start getting into nested routes, like a question ID /something / some other ID, you should explicitly define where these values should be linked to in the URL. Where'd that go? Yeah, so that's where that question ID from the view question ID comes from. Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick one. Okay, the question ID he was referencing, that's the question ID that's coming straight from the database, correct?
Yeah, so yes. Yep. So yeah, this is literally the question ID that's coming from that Postgres database.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right. Any last questions? All right. So what's nice about Django, it already has a tests.py file in every app. So we're able to write tests in here. So what are some things we can actually kind of test? So we can test our models. So if we open up our models, can't remember what this. So we have a question and we have a choice. So this is kind of nice because we have a one-to-many relationship. So here I can say like from dot models import what was it? A question, and we're also going to import choice. And here we can create our tests. So very similar to writing like unit tests using the test or the unit test library. Django has this test case class that we can inherit from. So for example, if I wanted to test the question model, I can say like test question model, and that will inherit from the test case class. And if we look, where is it? So if I come over here, we've got some references. So writing unit tests. So for example, here, just like here, here's an example. We're testing the animal class. So we can set up by creating some question objects or animal objects to test this animal model. And specifically this one has, I guess, a instance method or a class method, or I guess it would be an instance method called speak on that specific animal object or animal model that returns a string, but we don't necessarily have to do that because our models don't have any methods on them. The only one that has one is the question that has this dunder string, which we can actually test for if we wanted to. So if we look here, we can say tests. And so there's this. So I'm just reading through the documentation, test database, etc. So we have test tools. So we can, looks like we have a client class will actually simulate a HTTP method. So like actually create a like a post or GET request, and we can actually test what is being returned, what templates are being should be rendered, and all of that stuff. So here we can make requests. But here there's also a Django testing cheat sheet, which is awesome because I like cheat sheets. So because I'm able to just kind of emulate these tests. So for example, if I wanted to create some test data, I can create like a class method that says def set up test. So right here, it's got a setup test data that I can use throughout the entire test suite. So this is Python, the new way of writing Python. So if I want to create a like Q1, like a question one, I can even just say like question underscore one equals question dot objects dot create, and look at my models. I can say question text equals is this a test, and pub date. Pub date. I'm just going to import, is it time zone?
Time zone, are you looking for like today?
Yeah, like is it
Time zone dot now?
so?
Oh,
Time,
that would be the call. So yeah, it's import time zone.
is it time zone dot now then?
Yes.
Still getting that. Oh, well, we'll see if it works or not. So I can always Google it too, which is probably what I should do. Time zone, Python package or module. I actually want to do time zone now. Or is it the date time package? So anybody know off the top of their head?
I think the actual time zone is a Django method. It's not an actual Python method.
I think this. I think that might work from date time zone. All right, so I've got question 1. I can do question 2. This is a second question mark. All right. So in this test question model suite, I've got this class method called setup test data, which just creates instances of this question model. And now I can use this. I should be able to use this like question 1 throughout other tests. So I can say like, all right, let's actually, so right here, I'm actually testing that there's a dunder string method. So I could say test question dunder string method, which is an instance. So I can grab the first question from the database, question 1 equals question dot objects dot first. And I can say self dot, let's see, is it Django tests? So I wonder if this, see if, what was it, assert, what should I do? Google Django assert method, test methods. All right, that wasn't very helpful. Assert, so there's assert equal. So assert raises. I'm looking for like a bunch of them. So here we go. We have the setup class. Tear down. So we got a bunch of assert equals. I'm actually looking for the actual method that I can. Testing tool references. Other test conditions. Maybe that's it. Nope.
The time zone is a Django utilities method.
It's a Django has a time zone utility method.
Yeah, that's the one we used in the last example.
All right. Simple test. All right, let me just see self.assert. So it looks like we actually have a bunch of them. Okay, it looks like assert. So assert in. So what I'm going to check if to see if question ID of 1, because I'm grabbing the very first one, is contained in this dunder string of question underscore 1. So what this is doing is saying when I call that question 1 dunder string method, it's going to have this, and I'm saying, hey, does this string, part of this string, or does this string exist inside of this method or inside of this dunder string? Whoop. And let's just run that. So if I split the screen, actually, I'm just going to kill that terminal or kill the server. So if I want to run the test, I can do Python manager.py. I think it's just test. Oh, what do we got here? Cannot import choice. So I spelled choice wrong. All right. So let's run that again. All right. So we got an error. So time zone has no attribute now. So I'm going to, Latasha, what is that? Is it Django from?
It's Django utils import time zone.
Import time zone. And that has the now on it.
Affirmative.
Sweet. All right. So looks like this one passed. If I said like 2, it should fail. So notice how it failed. So it could say like assertion error, question ID 2 is not found in, and this is that string of the dunder string method. That's what that string looks like. So it's saying, hey, that value is not contained inside of here, which it doesn't, because I'm grabbing the first element from the setup test data. So it should be question ID of 1. So there we go. So there it's creating the database, and then it's destroying the database. All right. Any questions about the setup test data, and then just like testing a question, like an instance of that model? So now let's actually create some more test data, because we have a one-to-many relationship. So let's actually create some choices for question 1. So I can say like class dot question, or how does it class dot choice 1 equals choice. How can we do this? I'm going to say choice text. Yes. Yes. Question. So choice 2 and choice 3. No. Maybe. And choice 4 is I don't know. So I've got 3 choices, but these choices don't belong to a question, but it needs to belong to a question. So I could either say that question equals class.question1, or I can explicitly set. So if you look at these examples, so where an author or book belongs to an author, I can set it up by saying book dot, or here it goes. Author. So that creates set. So I can set the author's Philip and Juliana to belong to that book by using the dot authors or dot choices here and an array of the primary key of these values. But let's see how this works. All right, let's see. So I can say like class question one dot choices dot set. Let's see if I can do it. Choice one, I'm just going to do the entire object. Choice two, choice three, choice four. So if I run this, I just want to see if I get any errors. I might get some errors. Yeah, so test database. Oh, I'm an idiot. So there we go. So it looks like my syntax was wrong. So it's gotta be objects dot create. Actually, do we do create? Does create automatically save it?
That's my understanding.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank. How do we just automatically just create new objects? So easily do that by going back to yesterday's curriculum or Tuesday's curriculum.
To link them, isn't it that there question dot choices dot
Oh, no.
Oh, there it is.
one block down? Oh, okay, sorry.
They go down one more, they got the choice.
Let's see. I'm just going to try to do this a different way. So create and then just do question equals class dot question. So I shouldn't have to.
In the assignment, we had question dot choices dot create.
Ah, yeah, so I could have easily done that. Let's see. I just want to see if this works. Okay, so that still works. As Latasha said, I could have done class dot question underscore one dot choices dot create. And that was then I could have done just the choice text in there.
Yeah, the choice text.
Yeah,
And-
so I don't care. If I wanted to do that, it should still works. All right. So here, if I wanted to check, so test question choice relationship, I could do like question. Let's see, question one or question choices. I'll just do question one equals question dot object dot first. Then I can do like question. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I can do assert equal question one dot choices dot count, and that should equal 5, I believe. So if we've created 5 instances, So choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, choice 4, and then this last choice should equal 5. See if that works. And there it works. And I can test if it's wrong by doing like instead of 4. It failed. So 5 does not equal 4.
A quick question about how that's affecting the actual database. So we're creating all of those questions and that's populating the database. Are those automatically deleted because we're doing it in the test, or are they going to be there?
So it's not actually creating those records in an actual Postgres database, and it's not like inserting it. It's creating a test database. So I don't know specifically where it's going, but it's like storing it somewhere. It's like somewhere in Django. It's just like storing it in memory somewhere. And then it's just
that was
killing
my
it.
question. I figured it was something like that.
Yeah, no problem. Any questions on running the test? I guess this would be test question choice model. All right, now we can actually go ahead and test some views. We can test some views as well as test some templates as well. So I can say like class test. What was it? Polls views. Inherit from the test case. And just like in the unit test Python library, they have a method called setup that executes before each unit test. I'm going to take in self. And here I'm going to create a new client connection. And this client connection, I'm able to make GET requests, POST requests, etc. So I'm getting an error, so it just doesn't know what this is. So I'm going to have to import it from Django. Oh, looks like test client. There we go. So the first thing I can test is, let's see, to see if I do a GET request to this index. So it's just /polls. So if I just go to locals /polls, I should get a status code 200, like, hey, that's a good request. So I can say like def, was it polls or test all polls returns 200. So I can take in a response variable and say self.client.get. And this get takes in the URI, everything that comes after the localhost.com, .org, whatever, or the localhost 8000 / what do I want to go to? I want to go to /polls /, and then I can do self.assert equals response.status code should equal 200. So when I actually run that test, hopefully it worked. There we go. If I did like 404, when it creates that new client, should throw an error. So as you can see, we got an error. Assertion error 200 does not equal 404. I can also say, ask what template I should return. Returns index template. So again, I can use this response And then I can say assert, self.assert. If I scroll down, ILMNOPQRS, template used. So assert template used. I can render very similar to what this is. I'm going to render the response here. And then this specific template, like so. So it literally just assert template used, takes in that response from the client, as well as what's the template that should be used or that should be rendered. If I run that, I got 4 tests. So instead, if I just said like the detail, what if it renders the detail page, which is not correct? I should get an error there. There we go. So false is not true. Template polls detail was not a template used to render the response. Actual templates used is that polls/index. All right. Let's go with that last one. So let's actually run this Python manage.py run server. Let's just run this. So let's test this last one, see if we can get this to work. So if I refresh this and I want to vote on what's the funniest movie, and I click vote, takes me to the results page. So I made a post request. So let's test a post request. Def test post to post polls. Yeah. So what I need to do is actually, let's see. I can't, hold on a second. So when I actually make that request, if I refresh that, I'm going to clear the terminal and vote. So in the payload, this is what's being created. So it's a post request to polls/vote. So that's where that's the URL I need to go to. And the payload is this choice. I'm not quite sure if this is going to work because it's got that CSRF middle token, but we'll test if it works. But say I want to just vote dodgeball. So choice 3. So it needs a choice. So I can say data takes in a choice. Let's just do choice 2. I don't know what that is. And we'll see if this actually works. It might not work. But the response is the self.client.post. And we are reposting to, where are we posting to? You can actually look at our URLs. So polls /1/vote, because we're voting on the question 1. All right. And this should create self.assert equal create a new task object or a new choice. Create a client. So it all gets torn down hopefully after this. If not, we might have to do a teardown. So equal, we can do choice.objects.count because this post request should create a new choice. And the only choice in this part of the database should be 1. If it's more than 1, it's probably because the test data is still coming from this part of the suite. If that's the case, we might have to do a teardown method.
Need to put an S on objects.
Thank you. One of my most common types. Run server. We got 5. All right, here we go. So question matching query does not exist. All right. That is why. So what I'm doing here, so polls model questions does not exist. So what I'm guessing is, since I didn't create an initial question and choices, like I suppose, that's not going to work. So and this is probably not a good example. I'm trying to think of another way, because I'm literally just updating a record in the database. So I have an idea. All right. So I've got a question. I'm just going to copy all this down here. Set up. Actually, instead of all these choices, I'm going to just have 2 choices and 1 question. So choice 1, choice 2. And so I'm going to say choice.objects.get primary key, or I could say ID. I can also say just ID equals 1 dot vote should equal 1. See if this works. So what my plan is, or my intuition is, I created a question. I created 2 choices for that question, yes and no. I vote on question 1. I'm voting, I guess it would be, I'm going to vote for choice 2. So I'm voting for no, and then I'm grabbing that choice 2 from the database, and I'm grabbing how many votes that that choice should have, and now it should be 1 because initially it's 0. That's my intuition on that. Hopefully it works. Does not work. Question ID 1 not found in. Oh, where does it say that? What the hell?
I don't see anywhere you call data.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. So yeah, this post needs to take in the URL and what data from the body that you're passing it in. So data equals data. So this should go in the body of the request. And I'm actually going to change question just 3 choice C1 C2. Oop. But still, let's see if that works. All right, so we're getting errors now. Oh, geez. See, probably gonna get some more errors. All right, why does it say question? All right, that's weird. So the one that so this one's passing now, but another one is failing.
It said the string method was failing.
Question ID 2. I wonder. What if I did last question? No.
You have an S on the end of questions.
Oh, I see that. Thank you. Nope. Set to self. That's what. Why is that one failing now? I know how to get it to pass. I'm going to comment it out. I just want to see that other one. Let's see if, all right. Don't know why this one's all of a sudden failing. Question 3. That's weird. Good idea. Interesting. I don't want to take up any more time. For whatever reason, that one is now failing when it was passing earlier. I'm just gonna do something real quick. So it was working there. Huh. Question ID 1. Is it because of this part? No.
It looks like it's actually calling, when it's comparing the two strings, it's calling the question with ID 2. So it's not finding ID 1 in that string.
Yeah. So I could literally just do question dot get ID equals 1. That kind of, and that will work. Should work. Okay, no. Where's that one? Look, which one is it? Huh. So it's not even creating. That's weird. I don't know what's going on right now. I don't want to take up any more of your time. So I'm going to stop